Sometimes I feel like my mind loves playing with the sad ending. If I were a Disney screenwriter, they'd probably fire me if they put me in charge of the main storyline. If I put everything I think onto paper, it wouldn't be a cartoon. It would be more like a drama film. With no real control over my mind, my thoughts drift. Not toward the clear path I truly want, but towards side roads with endings and scenarios I could have never anticipated. A classic example? The dreams that reflect this unfounded negativity. Like showing up naked on the day of an important exam. Why would I be naked in a public place when I've never even felt the need to be naked on a nudist beach? Without a doubt, my awesome and creative brain joins the trend of showing me the most absurd ending. Without meaning to, we tend to imagine the tragic outcome. The image floats above everything else. Unstoppable. Impossible to slow down. We don't want our minds to go there, but once we see it clearly in our heads, it feels inevitable. Some people like holding this worst-case scenario card in their hand. The theory is that if they're prepared for the worst outcome from the beginning, then, if it happens, the impact won't be as strong. If it comes, they're ready. But how can you spend so much of your day thinking about the most adverse ending? You could even argue that by visualizing it so vividly, you're attracting it. Let's say you're planning a trip to another country. The worst outcome would be the plane crashing and never arriving. Why would I want to focus on a tragedy? This practice is not, and never will be, my favorite. And I admire those who choose to make it part of their daily lives. But to me, it's like walking around with an umbrella on a sunny day. No rain in the forecast, just in case it pours. It probably won't happen, but you're prepared. To me, this is a practice that, even when done consciously, ends up self-sabotaging the arrival of our happy ending. Another common example these days is the infamous impostor syndrome. And I say that because it's something I struggle with. Even though my performance at work is, let's say, above average, I always have this intrusive thought that it could be my last day. Tomorrow, my boss will call me in with that somber tone and the unwanted news. Without reason or warning, today will be my last day. I cannot tell you why, but you won't be coming back tomorrow. And that thought can loop in your head, even when you're fairly certain that, for now, your position is indispensable. Because somewhere an AI is probably waiting for my one big mistake to take my job. Then there's everyday life. If you feel sudden abdominal pain, it must be appendicitis, even though there are a million harmless reasons for a random stomach ache. Or that headache that won't go away for days. It's probably not a terminal illness. It's more likely your dehydrated body reminding you that alcohol is definitely not a substitute for water. But of course, the first thought is the dramatic negative one. I've read and listened to several interviews about this. Negative thinking can come from parents, from family members, from the environment around us. We have many different places where we can learn these behaviors. Thanks to these environment that trained you, to all the situations you faced for years, you developed an incredible skill. The skill of thinking negatively. The good news? It can be controlled. Just like you stopped sucking your thumb or biting your nails, you can control how many garbage thoughts enter your mind. The bad news? Like everything else, it's a skill. Controlling where your thoughts travel is something you have to actively train. There are many techniques to manage these thoughts. But let's pause for a second. What makes you think negatively? If everything is connected to your environment, then what, or who, is directing your mind toward a dark place? Because honestly, I don't want to think that way. That's when you have to evaluate, what are you consuming? What's on your phone when you wake up and open TikTok or Instagram? I imagine you might know about the latest medical breakthroughs, peace treats, or the animals saved from extinction. Or maybe it's the opposite. You're watching updates on wars around the world, documentaries about serial killers, or hateful comments directed at some artist over something trivial. For me, that's the easiest place to start. The content you consume. The environment around you. Yes, it might even mean distancing yourself from John, that friend stuck in an existential crisis and negative spirals that can easily pull you in. If your environment becomes positive and hopeful, that negative thinking skill you developed starts to weaken, and you begin strengthening a new one: the ability to expect the best outcome, to believe that the alternatives are good, that there is nothing to fear, that things can work out. This time it wasn't my grandmother who said something wise, it was Bob Proctor. I listened to a podcast where he was being interviewed about fear. And the phrase that impacted me the most was this: faith and fear both demand you believe in something you cannot see. You choose. So maybe it really is about choosing. Do you think with faith or do you think with fear? When an intrusive negative thought tries to attack, remembering that phrase feels like raising a shield. It gives me a second to think clearly and decide, am I going to believe with faith or believe with fear? And you? Which one do you choose?